Good morning, good afternoon, good day, and good evening. Now, I don't know what time of day it is for you, but for me, it's a good time of day. We're back at it again today. We are at it for another day, talking about another topic. And as you can tell, I haven't been streaming here recently. I've had migraines, and it kind of hampers exactly what it is that we do here. But I will say this, if you do like what we're doing, if you like the content that I'm putting out here, if you feel I'm giving you any kind of value at all, do me a favor, do that whole YouTube thing for me. You know that everybody, smash, I don't know if I want to say smash, right? What I will say is within the bounds of the law, within being legal, if you can, touch that button there, like, comment, subscribe, and really do share this. Share this with everybody that you know. Because today, what we're talking about is a serious subject, and I guess maybe I shouldn't have started off so light and so airy, because it really is something that really bothers me on a fundamental level. And I guess the question is, if you were working at a bank and you seen this, would it scare you? Possibly the better question is, should it scare you? When you look at it, do you see a bank robber, or do you see a hard-working man that is abiding by all of the many mandates that we currently have in this country? Well, at this point, you probably know exactly what it is that we're talking about right now. If you've seen it, this is about 3, possibly even 4 days by the time this actually comes out. This story is about 3 to 4 days old. It's something that happened actually back in January, and we're talking about Ryan Coogler. He's the director of many films, such as The Black Panther, as well as all of these other ones that you see popping up right now. And he's in what many might consider to be the Black Mecca of the United States, Atlanta, Georgia, in a bank that has tellers that are Black, a manager that's Black, and police officers that came in that were also Black. And out of all of these films that are hanging up around my head right now, the one that he probably closely identified with, or most closely identified with at this point, is this one. The individual that was portrayed in Fruitville Station. Here you have a situation where an individual, a Black man, was accidentally shot by police officers. So why would Ryan Coogler think he might be accidentally shot by police officers? As a matter of fact, why am I even covering this? That might be a question. Why are we talking about this? It's a Black man being discriminated against by, or possibly discriminated against by, Black bank, Black tellers, and Black police officers. I mean, save your Black. I thought that you focused on issues wherein Black people were discriminated against, but by OTBs or other than Black people. And the simple answer to that is that's not accurate. My focus is I want to focus on Black excellence, on uplifting us as Black people, on the image that we need rehabilitating as Black people in this country. And that image is not just with OTBs or other than Black. That image is also within our own community. As a matter of fact, we need to clean house first, while we're also trying to make sure that we get everyone else on board with loving and respecting us as Black people. So to that end, my focus is on systemic racism in this country. And that systemic system that it deals with is not just with OTB. It's also with Black people as well. And here, this is what we're looking at. And I guess what this needs is a quick summary, right? And here's the quick summary. I'm looking at it right now. And I've drawn some notes concerning this whole quick story that's here. And if I'm giving you the Cliff Notes version of it, because it was all, and if I'm smart, I'll take that out, but I have a tendency of not being smart. I kind of like to one take things. Write down all my notes, sit down with you guys, talk about it, and then get in there and get out. But in this situation, here you're dealing with a situation where Ryan Coogler, the director, black man that we're talking about, goes into a Bank of America to withdraw $12,000. While in Bank of America and requesting $12,000 from his bank account, the bank teller contacts 911, accuses Mr. Coogler of being a bank robber. Police then come in and detain Mr. Coogler and everyone that was in his vehicle until they were able to clear the situation up. That's the synopsis of it. However, that synopsis utterly fails to accurately capture everything that actually happened. And again, the beauty of this is that it's documented. This entire incident is documented, and the police cam footage of it is also readily available, and it's going to be down in the description below. So please, by all means, it's a 10-minute video. I would encourage you to go watch it. Don't just take my word on it. Go watch the actual footage and see exactly what happened from the police perspective. Because what happened at this point is that Mr. Coogler goes into the bank. Mr. Coogler requests $12,000, not verbally. He writes a note. Which note? This note. And as you can see in the note that Mr. Coogler wrote, many people might say one thing or another about it, but this is a note that he passed to the bank teller. After he passed the note, Mr. Coogler then uses his bank card with his bank PIN number and provides the bank teller with his ID as well as the bank card. So the bank teller now has Mr. Coogler's account information, his bank card, the PIN number has worked, and his ID have all been provided to the bank teller.
Bro, I said, hey, is that gonna be okay with you? She said, yeah. I put my own card in, put my own PIN in. She asked to see my ID. I gave it to her. Yeah. And she goes in the back, and I'm waiting for the and then the people keep coming out, hey, they taking care of you, Everything's just taking a little while.
The bank teller, in turn, contacts Atlanta PD. So the Atlanta PD comes out she's also told her manager, the bank manager, they say, oh, she's taking care of it. She's taking care of it. She'll get.
He just kept pointing. He's like, look at the note. So I'm like, okay. And so I said, do you have your ID? He did give me his ID. It was a California ID. But my stomach started turning. I'm like, okay, it just seems odd.
She also says he gave them his Bank of America account card, but they still called police.
I have police en route. Can you see? Are you able to see if he's still there?
I don't want to really turn the corner.
The next thing Mr. Coogler knows is that he has this situation with the police.
Hey, sir. Do me a favor, man. Come this way.
And this is where he might have thought he was in Fruitville Station. Mr. Coogler, cooperating with the police officer, at no time does he resist. At no time is he sit there trying to resist the police officers. He's not even given the opportunity to try and resist the police officers or anything along that narrative. He's then taken out of the Bank of America, and according to him, this is what happened.
Look, man, she got scared when a black dude handed her a note. You know
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
And this is why language is so important. If there's one thing I really want to highlight, in addition to all these other issues, because in this situation, everyone gets an F with the exception of Mr. Coogler. The bank gets an F because at this point, the news stories and the titles, this is again, language is extremely important. Everybody's saying he was mistaken for a bank robber. And you'll see these stories out. Mistaken for a bank robber. Mistaken for a bank robber. Mistaken for a bank robber. If you've given all this information or identification to the bank, your ID, your bank card, your PIN word, along with your bank account information, what other information does the bank need from you to verify or validate that you are the holder of said account and entitled to the funds in said account?
he just kept pointing. He's like, look at the note. So I'm like, okay. And so I said, do you have your ID? He did give me his ID. It was a California ID. But my stomach started turning. I'm like, okay, it just seems odd.
She also says he gave them his Bank of America account card, but they still called police.
I have police en route. Can you see? Are you able to see if he's still there?
I don't want to really turn the corner.
This is not mistaken as a bank robber. This is he was wrongfully accused of being a bank robber. In spite of having all the right identification, because he was black and other black people having that wrong mentality about us, they wrongfully accused and called the police on Mr. Coogler. The police in turn come out, and as you've seen in the footage that we briefly showed, and I encourage you again, go down to the footage in the description, take a look and see exactly what happened with Mr. Coogler in his interaction with the police. The police at no time, they deserve a huge F. And in bringing in 2 officers into the bank, they were able to sit there and take and assess the situation. And what did they do instead? They did nothing besides to escalate it. They asked no questions. They figured we'll detain first and then ask questions later. And they detained him in cuffs.
Well, that's, like I said, that's the reason why we're out here, and that's the reason why we detained everybody, because we didn't know exactly what was going on. So you make these...
I gotta be honest with you, man. Y'all never asked me what was going on. So
Yeah, it doesn't allow us to...
Officer, let me ask you a question, sir.
Yes, sir.
You're talking to me right now, and I'm cuffed in the back of a car.
Yeah.
My teamster driver's cuffed.
Yeah.
I imagine in the back of a car.
Yeah.
And my baby nurse that takes care of my baby is cuffed in the back of the car.
Yeah.
Is there any reason we can't have this conversation once you get these cuffs off everybody? And we back to being treated like standing members of society? Is there any reason for that, bro?
Yeah, that's fine.
For trying to pull out money from his own bank account. They didn't at no time did they ask the bank manager, at no time did they ask the bank teller, is he the person he purports to be? They've had enough time from the time of being called to being dispatched to being taken to the bank to know whether or not that's the case or not. At no point when the bank personnel escorted them to Mr. Coogler did they ask any questions. They asked questions afterwards. And this is something that it shows to me that the police training, Atlanta PD training, like police training all over this nation, is inadequate and insufficient. They did no policing until they came out, and then even then, at no point did the police offer an apology and say, we apologize, we're sorry. Obviously there was a mistake that was made. We'll do better. We'll try to do better at a later date. It was all, you have to understand where we're coming from.
All the time.
I understand.
I put my own bank card in there for the lady went in the back. You know what I'm saying?
So we have to confirm that. You gotta understand, we don't come out because of the seriousness of the call. We don't just come out, and unfortunately in a situation like that, you don't get the benefit of the doubt. We detain and then we ask questions later.
That's fine. That's fine. You have all right to do so.
Yeah,
But I just want you to understand what my sergeant advised you on the nature of the call. That's all I need you to understand.
Have you ever considered speaking to them before you make a transaction like that? Have you ever had something like this happen?
Y'all are withholding shit from me though, right now, right?
What are we withholding?
So I call Atlanta and I say, hey, Officer Fernandez, that?
Yeah, that would be me.
I got first initials on your names, right?
Yeah.
Why they not on here?
I'm gonna give you a case number.
Why they not on here? Let's put the first initials on here, like y'all got on y'all junkies.
That's why we're giving you the case number. Dude, calm down.
You telling me to calm down?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I am.
It was all very authoritative, all very authoritarian. It was, I don't want to say jackboot because I think that goes a little far, but it's getting close to where it's at this point, within our country, and how the police our neighborhoods and police us as citizens. But it was pretty close to that, and it's sad to watch it. It's sad to see it. It's sad to have that happen, but it also goes in to show words and language behind this is powerful. There was no mistake. He provided the right identification. There was no apologies given. He's presented as he should have did everything else wrong, differently. He did something wrong in his interaction with the bank. that you don't, I say, if you're asking for that kind of money, or if you're doing it this way, even though you might have had success other places, you need to do it this way in the future. At no point did anyone acknowledge or take responsibility for a mistake being made. Everybody looked at Mr. Coogler as if he was the one that was at fault here.
I'm not saying out loud how much money I'm taking.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not talking about speaking to somebody like that. I'm saying.
I don't know. I say it's to the point now where you look at the police and you just assume that the police think that we are in a militarized a state of being, and it's not even funny at this point. So I guess if you really want to look at it, I'm not gonna say if you really, I'm gonna encourage you. Down in the description below, link to the full video from the police officer's own body cam, along with a link to where you can find that note for Mr. Coogler. And I know I didn't tell you before, and I'm gonna ask you before I tell you what I need to tell you, do that whole YouTube thing. Give me a like, give me a comment, give me a subscribe if you like what we're doing here. I love you. May you have a great day, and may you always, always, always have peace in your life. We're out.